Hey, looking good, dog.
Magnus.
What's up, man?
All right. Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Oh, I cannot hear you.
You cannot hear me?
Hold on, let me see if I got mine. Yeah. Oh, whoa!
Can you hear me now?
Give me a second. There we go. Can you try again?
Yes.
Oh, there we go.
That's perfect.
All right. Perfect. Here, let me do something real quick. Give me a second.
Oh, shit.
So I didn't set up the live stream as I normally would have because I thought we were doing something like a live stream where we record and we set and then I was going to chop it up. Oh, that is actually working though, isn't it? Okay, hold on. Let me check something out here.
I'm open for everything.
Open, good. All right, let me shut this down. Cancel. I think technically, I think it didn't matter what my intentions were. Anyways, we are live right now. So, how are you doing, brother?
Amazing. Well, thank you. I'm doing quite good. I went to a hypnotherapist today, so I had like a deep, hypnotic session. It was fucking expensive, but wow, man, it felt like I was deep enough that it had association to a good psilocybin microdose, and
Really?
yeah, so I feel like all cleaned out, cleansed. And
So
what about you? Yeah.
Go ahead. I was going to
No.
ask. Actually, I was going to ask about the hypnotic session. So, tell me a little bit about that. Is that now you actually do that with some of your NLP work, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I'm a big fan of subconscious work, and I'm really sad that I didn't notice it early in my life. But yeah, it's the machinery is where everything can be transformed. All your values, beliefs, like limits, everything. It's down there. So you have to go down in that program, reprogram it, reframe it, and then consciously, then afterwards, you just feel better. So that analogy with seeing it like a program, it's uplifting because that means that whatever you're feeling is only relatively true to the programming. So it means that you're infinite in that way, that you can become whatever you desire in a way. So that should give like hope to people, you know?
Yeah.
So I just began doing that, studying it, and it's powerful.
Now, do you ever dabble? Do you ever do the guided meditation sessions on that you can find on YouTube and whatnot? Do you think that those have any value or merit?
Yeah, for sure. I used, dude. Yeah, I've been 5 years ago. I remember crying for like 2 hours after doing. It was like an inner child guided meditation. I was going into it like I'm gonna try this, and with a big skepticism towards the whole project. And then it was so funny. I was just reliving a lot of childhood experiences that I thought didn't affect me. And then I was like, I teared up and I was like, what the fuck, man? And then I just saw the comments. It was like all dudes just tearing up the comment section because of this. So I think after that, it just started there, and you just realize that everything is hypnosis. Like that you take this idea of hypnotic work down from the pedestal that it's some kind of, you need a special training to even affect someone hypnotically. And the basics of it is just this, that we also learned that from neurolinguistic programming, that when we speak, we automatically like, the thing is that when I speak to you right now, I have a sense of power over you, and the fact that the words I'm speaking will create pictures in your mind. Those pictures will generate certain feelings. Those feelings will affect every cell in your body. And if you just think about that for 2 seconds, how messed up that is in a way, we don't think about it like that. But I can affect your immune system right now. I am affecting you through the frequency of my voice that you convert into all of these other sense data in a way. And that's directly hypnotically affecting you, because that will affect your subconsciousness. So the way we speak about things will on a daily basis hypnotize you. If the 5 friends you hang out with tell you that you are valuable as a human, that you are great at things, that you can accomplish, if they keep repeating that for 1 year, you don't notice it, that's the reason you then begin to get success. If you have friends that are trying to use you, dominate you, don't have your best intention at heart, and they tell you that you don't have any abilities to get better, that you're a bad friend, you're a bad person, you tell that, 1 year you'll end up a different place. And knowing this means that you cannot be the effect of life anymore. You have to be the cause, which means that you have to stop being programmed and start programming yourself. And that takes so many years. And to everyone listening also, if it's like every year that goes without going back and doing this kind of advanced shadow work will just add more layers of shit. So I started, I think I was 28 when I even discovered this realm. And then now I'm just still today going back, finding like broken parts of myself that I need to fix in order to heal. It's just when you discover that it's possible, then you get addicted to it, because that's the whole process of being here, like if going through that to evolve. So yeah, that was a real long answer, but
no. So actually, let's stick with that for a little bit. I think that was a really good word. So I was thinking of, have you ever heard of an author speaker by the name of Joe Dispenza?
Yes.
Okay. So a lot of what he speaks about is right in line with what you were just touching on, right? Kind of going back to the notion of shadow work. I love the way that you use that word there, shadow work, because I don't think it has to be something as mystical as it's made out to be. Oftentimes, not that it can't be, but that when I think of Joe Dispenza and think of concepts and notions of epigenetics and the effect that thoughts in the current moment have on our interpretation of the past, or more specifically, how thoughts in the current moment, beliefs, can actually affect us on a genetic and cellular level. And I think you're I think you're spot on. And coming back to touching on kind of the parallel between psychedelics and either guided meditation or hypnosis or deep introspective work, it's amazing the parallels there. I think that oftentimes we are thrown into the deep end with psychedelics, but that we can swim there as well through meditation, prayer, hypnosis, guided meditation. I'm especially keen on. Tends to keep me within particular parameters, right? Right. So yeah, I think that's really good. What are some things that you've taken away from Joe Dispenza, NLP, and some of the other programs and authors that you've been exposed to in terms of interpersonal work?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the funny thing. It's all interconnected in some beautiful way. I think in the past 5 years, the themes that I notice is the need for doing this classical shadow work, and primarily I do it through with the help of psychedelics. It's the easiest way to just get deeper into the content of my subconsciousness, the subconscious mind, and then you get. So that was the first take that I learned, that in order to become more effective and successful, I need to heal these blocks that I'm having in order to get beyond it. I can give an example of like I came up with this during a psilocybin trip. I don't know. I really get these. I'm a visual person, so it. I got it in a picture. I remember in my trip. It was like I was thinking in classic dualistic terms that started with think, and it came to me like from a deep place that I was shocked to notice the structure of it, but.
Keep going. I'm sorry.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
No problem, man. But yeah, it was like I always thought about that it makes sense to focus on what you want in life. That's the like classical theme in classical gurus within personal development. So maybe all the literature that are not specifically spiritual oriented, but all of these guys like Tony Robbins, for example, they're in that camp. It's not that they don't have a spiritual side, but it's more about the way you think and focus, not tied to any spiritual realm. And what I notice is that there's a tendency to really focus in isolated on what's positive. And you see that with the affirmations on YouTube. It's all about to think positive all the time. And I notice the lack of the other polarity of the good. So I was focusing so much on the good because that was being reinforced by these gurus, because they have a tendency to have the solution that if you're negative, just think positive. And that there's some truth to that. But if you, and here it came, so if you have like, let's say, the good here they want to focus on, then you're automatically creating the bad or the negative, you can call it whatever you want. And I just noticed that you have also subconscious and consciousness. So what happens is that if you in your subconsciousness, if you have a limited belief about, for example, that you're valuable and should be able to make a lot of money and have success. If you have a limiting belief that you cannot get success and you're not worth it, it doesn't matter how much you focus on the positive, because fear will always direct itself towards like the object of the fear. So if the fear is a focus towards what you don't want, if that fear is subconsciously programmed, it doesn't matter. If you just focus on the good, you will be there instead, but you still have this belief buried in you. And I saw that this was lacking, this knowledge in the self-development literature. It's why you rarely hear them talk about diving into the emotion that doesn't make you feel good. And I think that was a big mistake, that the focus was only being positive, because then you see like a whole movement of young people sitting and feeling like shit, filled with anxiety and all this, and they're just trying to think positive. But we, like people who have, for example, suffered by anxiety, know that it doesn't go away by focusing on something positive. It can have deep roots buried in traumatic experiences. So it's not that easy. And I was really frustrated that few of these people talked about it. Like Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza, all of these guys, their focus is more towards the good. So it was like a critique of them in a way, and diving to more. Then I began gravitating to more, I would say, more advanced spiritual leaders or gurus like Jill Swan. Just a person who actually have the ability to also talk a lot and focus a lot about the dark side of the spectrum, because that is where, because it's easy to think positive, but it's not easy to dive into something that you're not aware of, that is blocking you. So that was the take, that if you have a fear towards something, then the fear will, like if you're in a relationship and you fear that your girlfriend will leave you, it doesn't matter what you do, subconsciously that fear will focus towards what you don't want. That will subconsciously sabotage the relationship, because you will actually constantly be having this belief, and then you cannot act out the attitude of someone who actually believes that the relationship will work, because subconsciously you don't think it will work, and therefore your actions will affect that. So I hope that makes sense. That was like the first take I got, that you need to do both.
Yeah.
You have to go anywhere. It's like, imagine the spectrum, good and bad. If there's a fear involved in the spectrum of anything, then that fear will block you from going forward towards what you do want. But imagine if you have a spectrum of two things. There's the thing you want, let's say relationship, and here is being single. You want this, you want to be in a relationship. If there's no blockage, if there's nothing, no fear between the spectrum, then it means that you can travel wherever you want without any fear. If you meet a girlfriend, fantastic, you can be here. You're equally happy here as if you were end up single, because there's no fear towards any of the extremes. And you can plug in whatever you want here. It doesn't matter. Being rich, being poor, being sick, being healthy, like, doesn't matter. If you have no fear of any part of the spectrum in your experience in this reality, then you're free to do the work of thinking positively in the way that you can now move towards any goal you desire without any fear of not achieving it. And that is the hidden key behind it.
I think that's great.
I don't know if it makes sense, but
no, I think I not only think that makes complete sense, but it reminds me the power of the subconscious, so that we can even have a desire that we can even repeat with mantras. We can visualize, but that if we have a conflicting subconscious fear, it not only could easily cancel it out, but most likely, because of the power of the subconscious, simply override it. And that if we never never deal with it, that at best our manifestation is pulled in two different ways. If not, again, because of the power of the subconscious, completely overridden by what we fear and what we don't want. I want to echo kind of my own path, guru wise, to Teal Swan from and how much value I find in her work. I think it's a very unique perspective, but very holistic. It's actually, by the way, what you said is exactly what I tell my 4-year-old niece. She's getting to a stage now where she's becoming very conscious and aware. She's 7 turning 8, and so she's just at this stage in her development where, when it comes to particular challenges in life, I say, the real key here is to focus on what you want. Don't focus on what you don't want. So often I'll want a new car, and if I focus on all the ways in which I can't afford the car or don't deserve the car, I'm thinking about the car, but I'm thinking about what will keep me from it, or why I shouldn't have it, or how it might not come to pass, rather than being solution oriented, or thinking of what I do want. I do want the car, and I do want to be able to afford it. I don't want to create obstacles and barriers to it. So I think that's
exactly. And it's like it comes down to a really fundamental belief of feeling certain about something. For example, if I ask you if you could raise your right arm, you will feel 100% certainty that you could do that right now. And if you had to do that to get something that would benefit you, you'd be like, no, fuck yeah, I can do this. It's just, I have certainty that I can lift my arm. Therefore, you can just do it. And the thing is that often we don't have, then it comes to success, for example. Let's say you want to have success in your life regarding financially success, for example. And then you want to start a business, and then I ask you, how certain are you that you will succeed in this? Then most people don't feel the level of certainty. That is why. And because this is the funny, that's why it's so important during the hypnotic work, because if you don't feel certain, we know by a fact that you won't take as much action. This is how just the brain it functions like a computer. If you plug in, I'm 40% sure about this, your brain evolved to and adapted to enhance your survival and utilize resources most efficiently. So your brain will calculate that, say you're 40% sure, and then will outweigh that with the risk you're taking starting a business. And it will just conclude really fast that you shouldn't put that much action into creating a business. So here we have a conflict because you want to do it, but the limiting belief and lack of certainty makes you go forward, but it's like something in you is holding you back. Then you maybe have to do some public speaking, and then you just feel like you don't want to do this. So that's a lot of us in life are caught in this struggle that we have all these dreams, all these goals, all these desires. It could be anything. It could be exactly the business thing, but you're not certain that you could pull it off. It's going outside, you see that cute girl walking down the street and you want to say hello, but you don't. You feel 20% certain that you can pull it off. You won't go there now. It has to do with anything. You want to go and train and eat healthy, but you don't really believe that you can do it. Maybe you don't even believe you deserve it. So that's the thing. But imagine if you could be 100% certain. You're going to have the feeling of 100% certainty with doing whatever you wanted in life. Then you would not be doing anything else in your life than waking up 4 in the morning and doing it because you knew that you will get it. It's like if I tell you there's $1 million behind you, you just have to reach it. How certain are you that you can take? You would do it.
Yeah.
So that's the power of visualization. That just imagining the end state, it gives you the feeling of certainty, because that's implied in the feeling. You have it. So that's where you can generate certainty in that way. You visualize it so much that it becomes more real in your senses. You can hear it, see it, smell it, touch it, and then it's like the thing you want gets like merged with the visualization in a way. So you already feel you have it. That gives the certainty and feeling that you can do it, because the more you visualize it, that you have it and how you get it, and then it gets so close to a real experience, because your brain, your nervous system cannot tell the difference between imagination and reality, that you can start doing it. That's the power also of that's a really powerful technology called psycho-cybernetics. It's exactly the same. It's just that visualizing something again and again and again will actually can be converted to getting better at doing that in real life. Like they do it with sports stars, athletes, every time. Like the studies are pretty clear on this. You can visualize yourself to becoming a better golf player, basketball player. But it's with everything.
Yeah.
That this is the key. If you do it, but the thing is, nobody puts in the work to do it. But if you have anxiety going to a job interview, if you start a month before visualizing yourself going through the job interview and it goes amazing without any anxiety, and it goes amazing and you get the job, if you visualize the whole in details like a movie, how that will run out, how you will go in there with confidence, how you will talk, how they will react. If you do that like for 30 days, 30 minutes, then you will I think you will be shocked to see that what it can do, change you as a persona. Like you get, because it's subconsciously you're now living in a different reality because you just created it by reliving it so many times that your nervous system begins to think it's real.
Yeah. Well, so that's what I was going to ask you. So I would love to get in, whether it's this live stream or the next one, how that notion ties in or parallels the philosophical concept of panpsychism, or all being mind, which I think would be really interesting. But as you're sitting here talking, and you were talking about visualizing and really creating that subconscious narrative that you want a month and a half or a month in advance of a job interview, and how you can become that thing and actually create it in a profound and palpable way, right? you can stay that as well, right? So let's say you prep for an interview and you become that individual who commands a room or elicits a particular response or confidence in the people hiring you or interviewing you. There's no reason at all that persona, that character even, or that just that subconscious narrative, that effect that we have, that interplay between our subconscious and our person with the world that we're interacting with, there's no reason that can't continue to happen, correct? Or that we can't, it doesn't have to just be a one-time event and we start over, but rather if we were diligent, intentional, and deliberate with our actions and our work, shadow work, light work, the cultivation of self, we could carry that on into every aspect of life, right? Into the way that we perform our job, or the way that we perform in relationships, the way that we interact with our family and everyday individuals, right?
Exactly. It's if you boil it down, it's just that every time you move yourself, it's because your body knows that it's possible. You're certain you can do it, and there's something you want. Like movement is dopamine release. It's like that is what makes what makes you elevate and move. So if you like, you don't think about it this way. If you go down to the supermarket, it's because you don't even think that you have no limiting beliefs about going there. It's just 100% certainty you can go there, in there, get the food, get back and eat it, get the reward. 100% certain, because you've done it so many times before and nothing bad happens. So that's the same thing you just repeat with the content of your choice regarding your deepest the desires or wants in life, and you will then slowly begin to transform as a person, and there's no limit to the visual component of it. It all starts with the belief that it's possible, but it's subconscious. Like, you don't think about the supermarket as being a thing that you maybe can do. It's not even part of the thought process going down and shopping for dinner. It's just something that you do because the belief that you can do it is so well installed in your subconscious, with like walls around it. Like nothing can break that thing that you can go and shop peacefully. So you can get this, you can have the same structure around any beliefs that you want to, that reflect a goal that you want. So, and the beautiful thing is that it doesn't have to be true. Like you can just by visualizing feel certain about something that you maybe have low chance of getting if you created like a statistic analysis of how possible it was to even get there. But if you feel certain, you cannot do it better, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the key, and the beautiful thing, because you don't even have to be good at what you want to be good at. You just have to feel a sufficient level of certainty, and that's the key.
I think Alan Watts says it in one of his videos. He says, if you have self-doubt, you can do the right thing and bumble and stumble all the way there. But he said, with confidence, you can entirely get away with doing the wrong thing altogether. And I think about that because of how aggravating it can be, where we know that there are individuals who are not well informed, or who don't have well-educated positions or thoughts, whatever the case may be, in any domain, and yet they're magnetic. People are drawn to them. Alex Jones would be a great example. I think there's a lot with Alex Jones that he's either misinformed on, or intentionally just maybe telling people exactly what they want to hear. I don't know. But he does it with such confidence that it doesn't matter that most people would find at least half of his opinions to be absurd. He's magnetic to look at, and he draws people to him. It's like a car crash.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. So let's just keep going with this. Where would you start? So I think that with much of what we've spoken about now, that that we can keep talking about it. We can keep talking about the theory or the applications or the relationships. How if I wanted to start now, what would I do right this moment? What's something that I could do?
Yeah, well, I would say that you have to prove yourself that visualization is worth your time, and because I really know that, yeah, that's how the brain works. And so the thing I would want someone to do is to prove for themselves that this is valuable. So the thing you do, you don't have to sit down, but it's a good way of starting the practice. And you then close your eyes, and then you begin visualizing something you want. And already there, most people have a limiting belief about what they're worth visualizing even. So they would maybe say, I want to earn this amount of $1,000 a month more. And then I would ask them, why not more? Already there, because we would all agree that having more money would probably make us feel more happy or more secure, as a general rule. And then when you do that, you just visualize it. You don't have to believe that you have it. You just visualize that you have them. Everybody can do that, because no matter what limiting belief you have, everyone can imagine what they do want, regardless of the limiting beliefs around getting it. So you just visualize, like, just imagine what you want without thinking about how you get it for now. And then in the visualization, you use all of your senses. So you just visualize it as clear as possible in the most extreme way that you want it. And you just then create a video and walk through that life that you now want. And in all, without holding yourself back, being in a state of dream, you just let yourself, let whatever you want to happen in that movie just happen by itself, because already by now, with your eyes closed, you're probably entering a deeper state of meditation. So it almost becomes like a dream. You're just watching yourself, but it's not that you look to the left, see a Lamborghini. It doesn't mean that you have to think about what's going to happen in the visualization. Maybe something just pops up because you're in this now dream state, and then you just see your life unfolding, and then your feelings would all automatically follow. They're connected and affected by what you're visualizing. And then you just essentially, you have to just notice you're enjoying it. It feels amazing. And it will affect your neurochemistry directly. So it's like, it's not just thinking in pictures. People like understate it all the time. It's like, this is right now an antidepressant going on in your brain. It's like you're generating all this neurochemistry, all this dopamine, and you're feeling amazing. And then you probably should think, why the hell am I not doing this every goddamn day? What am I doing? So it's like it's like whatever. If you eat junk food, you will get a bad immune system, and you wouldn't do that. Then you eat healthy foods, and then it's really great. The same with your thoughts. If you think about it in the same way, what you're thinking is like it is an input for your nervous system and body. So you cannot just think what you want and without paying a price.
Yeah.
If you begin to think about it that way, you can actually really begin to take your thoughts seriously. When you have negative thoughts, this is not healthy, and you have to really notice it's garbage in a way, to see it for what it is. And then you just visualize whatever you want in that way, and the more you enjoy it, the longer you will do it. So that's the first trick. Get to the point where it's worth doing it, because most people, when they think about doing the half an hour meditation, they're like, I won't do it today because I'm tired. So you have to get to the point where this is what gives you energy. It helps you, and then you get addicted to it, because it works like an antidepressant. And when you get addicted to it, that's where it begins to get fun, because now it just changes your focus entirely on where you should get these amazing feelings from. So now maybe you stop seeking them from all the devices in life. So you can, yeah.
No, I really like the way that you said that. You said that what we think comes at a price. And as you were talking about that thinking positively or thinking about what we want produces an antidepressant effect. dopamine, epinephrine, oxytocin, all the feel good endorphins, right? That or feel good receptors, right? That but the same is true in reverse, that if we think about what we don't want constantly or what we fear, that it's a depressant, and that there's a cost either way. The cost of what we think or believe negatively, a cost to what we think and believe in a positive sense, and it really comes down to, I think that was just well said, cost to what we're thinking. Give me one moment, I'll be right
Yeah, no problem. Then cheers out there. I hope you like the voice of me, because this microphone is new and I feel like I sound like I have this radio voice. And can you rate it 1 to 10 right now?
I'll probably say you sound amazing.
I did commercials.
Did you?
No, I'm gonna use every break to sell my products. No, I'm just kidding. But
That's right. So let's. I think that's a great place to start now. That wasn't the plan, but I think that was a great transition. I don't know how this video will end up being, but as soon as you started getting into that, I thought that's where we need to begin. I don't know why. Maybe centering both of us, I think. But yeah, let me ask you this. So if tell the audience a little bit about how we ended up getting in contact. I know that you reached out. And it's so interesting how you're familiar with Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza. Obviously, we can go on, Teal Swan. So many people that I think that we have both learned from and have studied or and the like. But how did we end up getting in contact? What you reached out? Tell me.
Yeah,
tell me about what.
yeah. It was. I was watching the. I recall it was. I saw the title, something about Gnostic versus, and it's like rare that people identify as Gnostics or take that position. Maybe they often do it without knowing that the word reflects their belief system. And then I saw the video. It was on the Crucible, and it was just amazing. It was like also with regardless of the content, like it was. I think you guys were just beating each other up really good, and it was like it was a hardcore discussion.
Yeah. Do you remember? Do you remember which debate that was, or was it Redneck? Was it?
It was the spirit dude, Spirit Man.
Me, Spirit, Redneck, and
and I think you guys were so polite and nice, and then these guys were just getting fucking aggressive. But it was fun watching. It was fucking entertaining.
Yeah.
And then I just really vibe with of course your guys' position, and I was just sitting, and every time you were talking, I was just resonating with it. In a way, I was like, God damn it! It's like everything you're saying makes sense. It reflects my own experiences, and I know that there's a lot of people watching it that have the same experience of resonating with this message, because it's not confined to a certain way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
That would end up in a classical dogmatic religious position. So, and then I'm a pretty spontaneous person, so I don't think sometimes in the way that I was like, I like this guy and his views. I'm not seeing these views anywhere in an organized way, and you're going out debating, because often it's people sitting contemplating these thoughts all alone, through meditation or through the psychedelic experience, but they never really connect around it. And I thought that was amazing that you were putting yourself forward in that way, debating these topics, because nobody are doing it. It's rare. If you notice, and I think people have a fear of debates it's and I really, yeah, that's a good point just to make, that I'm really dissatisfied if any of the gurus are watching this. Like, it's really sad that that they don't put them out to someone, for someone to challenge their belief systems.
Yep.
Like the YouTube era we're living in, it's just about promoting yourself without putting yourself up for a challenge, having even a skeptic approach to it. And I think that's sad that they won't engage in debates, because for me personally, the only way I learned was through watching that dialectic of a debate going on. That is where I could decide, I could get more insight, because I'm such an open person in my belief that I don't attach myself to a position because it feels good. Most people are doing that. They just need the identity, they need the security in their belief system so they can map reality in a certain way and navigate. And I really get that. It's crucial for your survival to have an identity, but the problem is just that then you won't listen to the other side. And then I was just sick of watching content where the content didn't get criticized, because that meant I would only get one part of the truth, because I really firmly believe that there's a truth to every position.
Yeah.
So I never saw Bruce Lipton go into a hardcore debate with someone who would really challenge his beliefs about, let's say, epigenetics or whatever. So I think the world needs that, and that's why these channels are also growing, because people that are in favor of truth, regardless of the outcome, are gonna be skeptical about their beliefs in such a way that they seek out willingly the opposite position of their current beliefs. So they are engaging with beliefs that are contrary to their own, to get more wisdom, and then to choose, as we talked about before. If you have the whole spectrum, you understand it, then you can freely travel in a way that reflects your being and state now, in what you think is the right way to approach politics, for example. So that was again a long answer. That was just the thing. You're putting yourself out there and create this debate for, I think, for men to. It just created a lot of I think happiness in people, that they could really utilize your view, because it's rare. So.
Well, and let me touch on something that you just said too. I think that you're spot on from a psychological perspective. That's what worldviews, in essence, belief systems, ideologies, worldviews, personal worldviews end up doing. Is that they, whether the worldview or ideology is correct or not, it's irrelevant until either that belief or correctness or incorrectness is challenged or shown for what it is. That what worldviews and ideologies do is provide a sense of certainty in an uncertain world. In that one of the last things that we want to do is jeopardize our the stability or our belief or our perception of the validity of our worldviews in any way, shape, or form. So I think you and me could sit here and extol what we've learned and how much respect for the intellectual and spiritual work that we have for Teal Swan, or like we've already mentioned a couple, Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza, Tony Robbins. We can go on with a list of individuals that we have the utmost respect for, and are some of the some of the giants whose shoulders we've stood on. And yet that's one thing that I think you're right on, that few people actually actively go out and seek to engage and to risk being wrong, right? Or risk being seen as wrong on any topic or most topics. But okay, so debate, me Spirit Man, which me and Spirit Man actually are still good friends. We try to work together, but we essentially have two different projects. So, but we work together as much as we can. I jump on a lot of his meetings, and but okay. So you saw us on the debate. You reached out. I think that was right as I was backing away a little bit from debate to reevaluate my own approach, because my goal in debate and discourse and pedagogical dialectics, right, is to persuade, present, and so I'm always trying to fine tune or hone my own ability. After I stepped back to it, I realized that there was a message I had received on the Infinity Church Facebook messenger, or messenger, a messenger message from the Infinity Church Facebook page that I had read, had been excited about, but had completely forgotten about. So reached back out. I think maybe 6-7 months later, we end up getting in contact, and I think that one of the great things, it's similar to kind of, I think, what's evident here in just our interaction, is that there are so many things that we resonate on. The way that you resonated with many of the positions that I held in that debate, first time we spoke, just your vision of what could be, not feeling that the term or word church was a limiting thing, but rather wanting to reclaim that and represent that, right, in a different way. Or the concept of what could be. You don't see, similar to myself, you don't see a hard line, a division that's inherent between psychology and spirituality, or between personal success and emotional maturation, or enlightenment, whatever the case may be. That these different domains or sectors in life aren't mutually exclusive. Science, philosophy, theology, the personal realm, right? Capitalism, or whatever the case may be.
For sure.
I think that's something that we resonated on, and which in time brought us here. I think we've been hashing out a little bit, What were one of the what were one of the takeaways you took away from, or what was something you took away from our first conversation?
The first conversation, yeah. Well, I think it was you at some point noticed that, I could be wrong, but I remembered that you spoke about the fact that either God or the consciousness, the mind, is located in everyone as our awareness. And this is a classic approach in the spiritual community in some way, but I don't see it always that people notice that. And that also goes into it's also the position that automatically dissolve the fake dualism between God and mankind, for example, that it's already merged in a way, so it collapses the dualism.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really important to I would say, this belief system, the more the Gnostic perspective, and a lot of the similar theologies, they are representing this fact. And yeah, so I just remembered that, and was just agreeing with it. And I think there's some pretty strong arguments for that position. And
and I think, as a matter of fact, your answer is exactly what I was just getting at. That one of the things that I think resonates so well with one another is how what the world oftentimes perceives as mutually exclusive or dualistic, inherently dualistic, and that we try to view or understand, or arrive at a dissolution of that duality, a dissolution of the mutual exclusivity of polar opposites, right?
Yeah. Exactly, because and this is like the core of my own philosophical journey, getting to these truths that I got during my most intense psychedelic experiences, that that the duality will collapse in a form of spectrum, and it is so simple but so profound when it comes to ancient Greek philosophy, for example. But it's so simple, but most people will like go, now I get it. It's like if you have a color spectrum. Again, you have dark blue here and light blue, and this is also a problem in classic philosophy. If I go from dark blue to light blue like this slowly, and I say, Kael, tell me when it's no longer light blue, when it's no longer dark blue and it's light blue. There's no objective way of saying this is the demarcation, this is where it's light blue, this is where it's dark blue, because it's a spectrum.
Yep.
Wherever you put the demarcation, like the point, I could zoom into like a nano state and say, if I go like just one here, is it then still dark blue? And you probably say yes. And at some point you would say no, but that point you're saying no to could be to the little bit to the left anyway. And that is a profound insight if you're dealing with the duality, because there is a duality, there is a polarity.
Mm-hmm.
The spectrum cannot exist if there's not poles between it, if it makes sense. You need the polarity. But then it also at the same time collapses in a weird way, because I'm doing this now. I'm creating the polarity as a finite thing. Imagine we do this now with the polarity. It goes infinitely in both directions as a spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
There is a polarity, but there's also not a polarity.
Exactly.
And
right.
Then, yes, exactly. And then at some point it goes full circle. And then when just discovering these insights, it's like you almost feel like it's so hard to articulate what it does to you when you feel it, but it's like it's speaking to some core aspect of your being that it makes sense, but it's really hard to grasp with language. And this is the point, because you cannot do the demarcation, it means that ultimate truth conceptually is not obtainable. And then there's the problem that I just created a truth statement about that. It's like self-detonating, but that's the whole point. The point is becoming aware of that language, for example, is self-referential, that you cannot prove language without using language to verify it. You cannot prove that logic is logical without referring to logic.
Yep.
So everything that is based on conceptual analysis will end up in a circular conclusion, which is a fallacy. So that's everything that is conceptual. And then you begin to notice that conceptuality, like analyzing, actually the origins of that word is dissecting. When you are like, that's the origin of the word. You're dissecting or dividing things to analyze. That's how you can analyze them.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get into the fact that your brain, this is because your brain have adapted to and created this reality in distinctions to experience all these different forms. But we just established that you cannot in some way create a distinction. The distinction is in a way arbitrary, like with the example of the different color spectrum. Whatever you put the demarcation between things, it's arbitrary in some way, and in another way it seems like it's not. So the fact is that you just realize that your brain is just creating these fake distinctions, appearing as distinctive, but they're not. Then you come to the conclusion that if you infinitely push the poles and the spectrum goes like this, you have like a arbitrary created world that is existing, but at the same time it's not existing anymore because it has no polarity to hold itself up against you. And then my conclusion was just that. That then you're seeking truth from another place that is non-conceptual, because we just established that is impossible to that perfect degree. And that reminds a lot about Platonism and Neoplatonism, that in the sense world it's impossible to gain this ultimate knowledge. There will be a spark of it, but you cannot. It's like when you have when you bake cookies and have these metal thing like a man, and then you push it into the dough, and it's like a form.
Right.
It's called that.
Yep.
The form is perfect, but when you make all these cookies from the form, they will not be as perfect as the form. That's the way of interpreting language in a way to understand reality, like through logical thinking, analyzing, conceptually understanding it, you can only understand the cookies that are not perfect. You need to move beyond thinking to gain this insight, this gnosis that you cannot get from thinking without getting in a circle. So that means you have to shut down the analytical mind. And when you do that, funny enough, for a long enough time, suddenly you are downloading all this wisdom that is inherent in us, like this logos, where we're all connected to this Wi-Fi, that we can actually get the same universal message. Then you can, and then the problem arises as soon as you begin to interpret that insight that is based on a deep intuition. Then you're creating one interpretation out of infinite many interpretation, and then you can see the whole problem is beginning. Then you begin to move away from the truth and to the focusing on the interpretation. And then the more you create the narrative, it becomes a system, belief system, becomes a religion, and then you're focusing towards that instead of the ultimate pure truth that you originally had.
Yeah.
And then you see the split right there between religion and Gnosticism, for example. That is, it depends on where your focus is. Is it on being attached to the narratives you created, the interpretations that you must now know are arbitrary in a certain way? They're like a map reflecting a deeper truth. So it's not it's like, when you have a menu card and you mistake the menu card for the menu, you begin to eat the menu card. The menu card is not the food.
That's right.
This is the problem with, I would say, with like modern dogmatic religious thinking, that they're mistaking the card for the real deal, that is free from any interpretation, because it's beyond conceptual thinking. It's like it communicates in a different language. I want to hear your opinion about it too, man, because that's
so I think it's ironic where you went with that, because I had just listened to a Joe Rogan podcast last night where this YouTuber had mentioned how he comes up with his thumbnails and how he comes up with the titles of his videos, which he argued were perhaps two of the most important aspects of any video, whether it's trying to find a title that is conducive with the YouTube algorithm or that people would actually have an interest in. And he said that what he does is he actually sits there and steps back a moment and tries to allow his subconscious or perhaps the universe to prompt him with something. And he said he's had great success with that. And so I'm sitting here as you're speaking of that, thinking of that and thinking of the spiritual notion of the Akashic record, right? Of all knowledge, of there being a realm where there's all knowledge that has ever existed and that it's accessible to us, and functions much like a muse or a source of inspiration when we allow it, when we step out of the way and allow it to work through us rather than us consciously fumbling with it. I think there has to be something to that, because whether it's with my writing or various aspects of other interests that I have, I've found that sometimes the best thing, the best ideas have come while I was in the shower or while I was running, right? When I wasn't necessarily fully consciously engaged on the topic, but when I was maybe physically distracted and allowing my mind, my subconscious to ruminate on these ideas, and but then also thinking of the duality and the interplay. I think Nagarjuna calls front and back. So think of a quarter, right, or a coin. You have a front of the coin, back of the coin. I think Nagarjuna calls them mutually interdependent, mutually co-arising. That the concept of a front gives rise to the concept of a back. You couldn't have a front without a back, or a back without a front. And that even taking a quarter, let's say you were, to use your example, let's say you were able, and that's a spectrum, using that as an analogy of a spectrum. Let's say you were able to find the exact center of that spectrum or that quarter. The second that you cut in that perfect center, all of a sudden now you have two coins with a front and a back. Even though they're half of one coin, separated, now they become their own spectrum or their own quarter, right? So even the moment that you might be able to find the exact center, all of a sudden logic or just the dualistic illusory nature of reality, you can't have a front without a back. You can't have a positive without a negative. Same thing with magnets, right? You take a magnet, and the second that you cut it in half, plus positive and negative aspect of or positive and negative what is it called, polarities, right? Positive and negative on either side of the magnet. You cut it in half, same thing happens. Now you have two magnets, both with positive and negative. You can't separate the positive from the negative, right?
Dude, that is exactly, it's that was a profound insight I also had, exactly like that when I was struggling with the question of the problem of evil, for example. And I just again came to the clear conclusion that it's I don't know where to start. It's like a holographic effect that the part contains the whole in some way. So, for example, when you have, like you said, as above, so below, in a way, that's the essence of what you're trying to get at. But it's really profound. It's like when you have the yin yang symbol, you see the black dot in the white part, and vice versa. But imagine it's like that yin yang sign works as like a fractal system. So when you say this is the white part and there's the black dot in it, imagine that in that black dot there's a white dot, and then it goes on infinitely. Then you have the most precise explanation of this, how that dualism actually works. Every time you say that something is good, you create bad in it.
Yep.
And the reason for that, just to explain, is just that to go to, again, if you have the spectrum, if this is pleasure, if you want to go here more towards this direction, it implies that you're moving away from here. If you want to go towards right, it implies that you are leaving left. You're going more towards right and away from left if you want to go towards right. So if you're becoming more rich, you're becoming less poor by definition. So when you have this good and bad, then the problem is not only are you creating good and bad that is containing both of them in each other, then it gets really trippy, because then what you're calling good may end up as bad in the future for you.
Mm-hmm.
So then you have this weird effect where whatever happens infinitely contains each other in a way that is unpredictable, because of infinity, the infinite way of the universe. Then if you, just an example, so it gets really basic, let's say you win $1 million in the lottery, and you didn't have a lot of money, everybody would say that's a good thing, and it feels good. But let's say because of that you ended up ruining your life with drugs and strippers, and then one year after you are a real terrible place, and now you're looking at the happening of you winning the $1 million, and now you're looking at it with the perspective that was bad. So at one point it was good, but now it's bad. But maybe going through that made you realize a lot about yourself, so now you get an even better life than you would if you can, you see. And then it goes like infinitely can move back and forward, because the truth is that is neither. It's that's the frame. The way you frame the situation is what creates the structure. That's why it's generated. It's created. The dualism is put on a non-dual screen.
Mm-hmm.
That's how but then you have to like detach from the belief in that things are good or bad in and of themselves, because the thing about understanding and moving away from dogmatic religious morality is that the crazy conclusion just is that, like for example, that hunger is needed for you to enjoy food. Hunger is the need. This is the argument. So you cannot enjoy food if you're not hungry first. And the more hungry you are, the better the food will taste. So the state of hunger creates the feeling of gratitude towards the food you're now eating. So it's the absence of what you want that is creating the enjoyment of it. That is so profound, because then you can, in theory, take any horrible human experience and you understand that it must be a necessary potential for there to be the opposite of it.
Mhm.
If you want to enjoy the state of a nation being in peace, you must have the concept of war. You cannot be grateful for, look around and say, now we have peace after all these years, and you just enjoy it collectively. It's only possible if you had the potential for war and experienced it. You can have but then you can take any horrible example, murder, like rape, anything. It doesn't matter. All the horrible human experiences, they have to exist for you to feel grateful for their opposition of it. And that solves the problem of evil right there. So it's not like when people ask, why does God create all of these horrible experiences? Then you understand that it's only a problem because you're looking at it from an isolated perspective and not zooming out, seeing the whole picture. You are actually already enjoying the evil by having the absence of it. But you needed to even experience the absence of that evil experience. It's really simple when you think about it, that it must be necessary that these horrible experiences exist to enjoy the freedom from them, or to even enjoy. Otherwise, you couldn't enjoy the lack of them.
It reminds me of a concept within Tolkien's world, Tolkien's literature, where he says that even though the elves live for thousands and thousands of years, much longer than humans, which in his world had a similar time span as we did or do, right? Somewhere around 70 years, as opposed to thousands and thousands of years. He said that there's this notion of the elves being jealous of us because of our short time span, because the immediacy or inevitability of that death actually gives meaning to the life that we're living. There's an immediacy to it. There's an appreciation that doesn't get lost because of how much time we have, but that every moment that we have is that much more precious because we won't have it for that long. Whereas he kind of contrasted that, or the elves seemingly understood that because of their long time spans, that they could do so much more and they would live so much longer, but that there was much less urgency, much less immediacy, that it was a much slower life. And so I could see both, but he definitely said that there's this element of the elves being jealous of the humans, right? And it also reminds me of a Buddhist story. I think it's a Buddhist story, where he said that basically there was this village in China where this man found a wild horse. This man had a horse, lost it. And he came back to his village and he said, "Oh, isn't that a bummer? I lost my horse." And the old wise man said, "Maybe, maybe not. We'll see tomorrow." Well, then tomorrow, the horse ends up coming back, but ends up attracting with it 3 or 4 wild ponies. So he went from having one horse to now having, let's say, 4 horses. And he's celebrating. He's ecstatic. He goes, "Look, isn't that a great thing that I lost my horse yesterday? Because now I have 4. And the old man goes, "Yeah, maybe, maybe not, but we'll see tomorrow." Well, the next day, his son is breaking one of the new horses, trying to train it, get it trainable, and ends up falling off because the wild horse broke his leg. He says, "Oh, isn't that horrible? My son broke his leg. These 4 horses, or these 3 new horses, are a curse. Isn't that horrible?" The old man goes, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see tomorrow. Then the next day, there's a war going on in his country, and soldiers come by and conscript or draft every eligible young man. But because his son just broke his leg, he was ineligible for conscription. He was physically lame or physically unable to. And he goes, well, isn't that great? And the guy goes, well, yeah, maybe, maybe not, but we'll see tomorrow. And I think that plays in perfectly with this notion that dualism of not being able, that birth has no meaning without death, or that the ability to love has no meaning if love is a compulsion or compulsory, right? If it is a necessity, if there was no choice in love, then would it really be love? It would, but the meaning of love, or what gives love meaning, or makes it unique from any other emotion that we have, is because you have the ability to hate, or you have the ability to choose not to rest your affections on another. And so I think you're
spot on. Yeah, it's really spot on. It really is. I just have to go to a bathroom. 2 seconds.
Hey, let's actually take a couple minutes break.
What?
Let's actually take a couple moments worth of a break.
Yeah, let's do that, man. Because
3 minutes or something. 3 minutes. All right, good stuff.
Back at it.
Back at it. All right, so what I want to do the next live stream, kind of prepping the next one. What I want to do the next live stream is go through a number of questions like, what is Gnosticism? What is infinity? What's the church? But I think that this was a great place to start.
Yeah.
Magnus, tell me, if you would, tell me a little bit about yourself personally. I know we probably should have
Yeah, yeah,
started
yeah.
this portion at the beginning, but if you would, go ahead and introduce yourself. A little bit of your background. Like I said earlier, you are well versed in NLP and a lot of personal development work. Tell me a little bit about your background. You don't have to dox yourself. You can do as much as you're willing to.
Yeah, thank you, man. Yeah, well, yeah, like right now, just starting. I'm 32 years old, and then right now I'm working currently in the security. So as a guard at the different hotels. Pretty fun. And before that, I worked as a personal trainer, and then I had studied philosophy at the University of Copenhagen, and used my time educating and getting certified in NLP. So I'm also an NLP trainer. Have my NLP course that you can buy online, but you cannot buy it because it's only in Danish right now. So, which is impossible to learn. And other than that, I would just say my interest is just it's reading. I'm like addicted to reading, so reading a lot of books, doing a lot of psychedelics for both microdosing and also deeper trips to explore and attain wisdom. And then I just love to train, do powerlifting. That's also amazing. Deadlifting, squatting, bench pressing, and then trying to focus on eating healthy. That's also like, and have like infinite amount of interest. It's horrible. Also do martial arts.
What do you do? What do you do martial arts wise?
It's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and which is almost a cliche these days. Everybody's doing it.
Yeah.
But and then I did some
myself as well. So yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
a little cliche, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it is, man. It's like everybody's doing it, and then some MMA also I did on the side. So like everything, and then I do some YouTubing for the NLP company of regarding personal development. A lot of tricks, like small hacks you can do that helps you reframe the way you think. And so I think there's a component of me that also love to educate and learn. And then I also had a funny background as I would say as a pickup artist. I had came from that community in Denmark, which was a funny journey. So it's like my life been really fucked up, man. It's like and when I was earlier, it was even crazier. I was my personality is so diverse, man. It's crazy what how much I changed. I used to be a member of the radical left, and not just as a classical academic leftist. I was like on the front in Denmark with these Antifa groups. We had the concept of Antifa and these groups in Denmark way before it became a thing in US. It was a big thing in Denmark in the 90s. And so I just used a lot of my time when I was young, like fighting Nazis in the streets of Copenhagen, or like organized fights with the Nazis, and I had like a fucked up life in that regard. It was like crazy, and then I got over that phase. So there's a lot that's why there was a lot to heal and learn from, because I had a lot of there was many traumatic experiences, a lot of guilt from what I did. So I that's how the journey started into the more spiritual realm. That's a big load.
So tell me this: where do you fall on the political spectrum now? Years removed from your far left wing extremism, where do you fall now?
Satanism. It's the no.
A little Aleister Crowley, right?
Yeah, just a little hint. No, it's right now it's with politics. I have the same dual understanding of politics. So it's more like a Jungian approach, but that came actually from studying. It was many books of neuroscience, and it's fucking interesting. Like they discovered that it was Jonathan Haidt who discovered that in The Righteous Mind, his book and his work. Fucking interesting. He noticed just that the fact that personality types are bound to neurotransmitters. So fucking crazy. So there's this perfect split in, if you look at every society, there's like 50% women, 50% men almost. If you look at politics, it's like 50% leftist, 50% right wing. And I was thinking, I don't think this is a coincidence. Like you have a left brain hemisphere and a right wing. You know, this dualism goes on as a pattern in nature. And then when I stopped noticing that as a coincidence, then you ask yourself, what's the synergy between men and women? There's like a conjunction. They are working together, creating and synthesizing something together that they cannot do alone. And if you take that understanding and turn it toward politics, then you learn from neuroscience that the more dopamine driven people are actually more prone to being leftist, because having a lot of dopamine means that you're always anticipating future events, abstracting towards the future, and so you're constantly living in the future of the newest thing, the newest progression. That's the leftist ideology in a nutshell. It's like, let's get rid of the old, let's focus on creating something new, innovating, progressive, and like fuck the conservatives. And then I just realized, oh my god, this is like, I think like it's something Jung talked a lot about. And I heard also Jordan Peterson talk about this pattern that I noticed. It's really interesting. It's just that if you are in a tribe, for example, you want half of the group to seek out new resources in that tribe, but you don't want the whole tribe to move away from because if they move away from the tribe in unknown territory, they could get killed, and it's not smart if all of them get killed. So, but it's all the dopamine-driven people. The leftist is the one seeking new alternatives, new resources in the tribe. The conservatives are the one preserving what's working right now. There's the skeptics. So they would say to the tribe, the part of the tribe that want to go find new resources, like, be careful. You don't know what's going to happen. We're going to stay here. This works. But then you just realize that politics is not about being left or being right. That's, again, the narrowed view of it. So you can actually transcend politics and move into what we could call conscious politics, zooming out, understanding that the left and the right are working together in this perfect synergy without realizing it. They are being used as a part of the machinery, but you can be aware of that. If you're prone to being leftist, you can actually transcend that position and understanding the polarity to the left position you're having, and then rise above it when you realize it, and then take no position, but all of them at the same time. That's the crazy thing. So the left and right works together. When we become aware of this, we will see a new form of political organization evolving. I'm really convinced of that, because you don't see, it's like you have there's a left and right, but there's not at the same time, because now you're aware of the utility of the whole spectrum again. And then you become, it's also a cliche in these days, but you become pragmatic when it comes to politics, knowing the spectrum and transcending that your position is flawed in the way that it doesn't represent the dynamic between the left and the right, because most people, they believe the left needs to negate the right, and the right needs to think they need to negate the left to move forward. And this will just end up in the end in civil war. It does. That's what I think it's going to happen worldwide if we don't wake up to this problem. So when you wake up to this knowledge that the left and right are working together, like your brain, the left and right brain hemispheres, when you notice that, you don't want to, it's like your brain fighting each other. You don't want that. Then you get this unity, and through that unity, you see society, I would believe, move forward and progress 10 times as fast, 100 times as fast as it's doing now, because we are limiting in the belief that we have to choose and that we have to fight the polarity that is a part of ourselves. So it's like having two parts of yourself, one part loving you, one part hating you, and you cannot solve it. So there's this friction. So that's the place I am now.
Yeah, very. I think I have a very similar journey politically, in the sense that grew up and always felt very conservative.
Yeah.
I grew up in a Christian context, and just I inherently leaned conservative. Would have, when I was 18, 19, 20 years old, would have told you I was a Republican all day, every day. I supported Bush, was naive in many ways, but I had reasoned beliefs, or my beliefs were reasoned and articulated, but it was very one dimensional. And then even as a Christian, though, when Obama came into office, I didn't like Obama. I thought he was an issue, but somehow in many ways he won me over to maybe not liberalism, but he won me over to the possibility of doing it differently. It didn't have to. I don't know. It didn't have to be my worldview or my ideology, my political beliefs didn't have to be mutually exclusive with another's. And so I would have said I am perhaps progressive or centric leaning, left leaning centric, right? And then with Trump in office and what's happened since then, I've specifically around the time of Trump, I would have been a staunch centrist, and I tend to take what works from both, and I don't care what the other side thinks of it. I believe in many of the ideals of both, preserving what works and innovating towards what the ideal or what could be.
Yeah, dude, isn't it funny? That's like, it's so simple, and it's so obvious when you figure it out that that's exactly what politics is.
Yep.
It's a tool for exactly noticing that we need to keep the things that works and progress towards, but keep seeking new ways of innovating what already works and exploring new territory in every domain we're working with in society. If it's physics, we gotta be open. If it's medicine, we need to be open. If it's whatever, psychology, we need to expand always. That's what we do to get to truth that could enhance our survival as a species, so we can experience more and evolve. So the centrist position is it's fun. It is the starting point from developing this conscious form of politics, because then there will be times and you're working together. Imagine like a parliament where you actually, everybody knows this, and you're working together to solve a problem. You're not limited now by your investment in your political ideology. So because that would like inhibit you from doing certain things by principle. Like if you're right wing and identify as a right wing, there are things you wouldn't do because they are associated with the left, even though that the context you're in society maybe demanded that you actually did that. That was the more precise thing to do right now. It was maybe a leftist progressive idea. Because again, as we talked about with this fractal aspect of duality, that what and you see this shifting all the time. Like what is assumed to be a leftist position today can in 10 years be a right-wing position. You've seen that, like with the flip between the Democratic and Republican Party before and now. Like the Democrats were deeply associated in the South with the creation of the KKK and all this. Mm-hmm. They were deeply embedded with a lot of racist positions. That flipped suddenly.
Yeah,
it makes it so much more confusing, and it's the greatest argument for understanding that these positions that we are taking is so illusory in that way, and being so attached to them will harm you and society, because you need to understand the full spectrum and why it's created in the first place to navigate with as a tool. But a society like that would progress so fast. Like a parliament with these elected people who have this knowledge, they can look at a situation and look at what it needs right now. Does it need more conserving? Does it need progression? You see that it becomes it's like you're not even thinking in dualistic terms anymore. You can like let go of left and right, and like politics becomes such a pragmatic thing that we can move much faster and take the correct choices based on this, like rather like old almost like esoteric knowledge about how the brain works. Like it's like a Jungian position or a centrist one, but it's all connected in the end. So incredible. You have the same thought patterns as well. In that case, like it's rare that I hear people express these viewpoints at all.
Yeah. Likewise, it's so funny how in American political circles, moderates or centrism is seen as a boring position, and in many ways, through my own development in terms of political thought, that's one thing that I want to do is showcase moderate the moderate position or centrism as being sexy, because that's exactly what I think it is. I think it's utilitarian. It has and it's pragmatic in a way that that is very immediate too. It's almost opening, or it's almost acknowledging the fact that the political platform or the positions that are taken at any given moment reflect the state of affairs in that moment. Whereas Republicans now would like to think that the Republican Party has been, in many ways, always been the party of conservatives. When Abraham Lincoln, who freed the slaves, was Republican, that was the beginning or the birth of the Republican Party.
Exactly.
Right? And that you're exactly right that Democrats in the United States, that Democrats were the party of the post antebellum South, right? But that through the civil rights movement, the era of the '60s, those positions, conservatism, liberalism, were flipped, and so it's very fluid. It's very contextual, or tied to the context or the present, right? But I think there's a lack of a willingness to do that. Even things like John F. Kennedy, who was a Democrat in the in the 50s and 60s. Obviously, he died, I think, 63 maybe, or was assassinated in 63. That form of that form of liberalism would very much be seen as a moderate position today. And so part of my drive politically is to make centrism sexy.
Yeah, dude, it's so crazy. Like, imagine also, it made sense what you're saying. It's so crazy that how it shifts. It's like the struggle for women's right to vote, for example, was seen as a progressive thing. Mm-hmm. So let's say this was the goal: equal right to vote is here, and we are like on the other side. We move towards, now we have equal right to vote. That was the progressive view. But now that we have it, it becomes the conservative standpoint, because now it's not only the vote. Now we need, equal quoting systems for men and women and all this. It goes then just believing that the right to vote is enough. It becomes a conservative position. But beforehand, it was the most extreme progressive position. So it flipped again. It always flips. But that's the whole dynamic between it. There must be some for you to progress towards something. There must be something that works, that you can progress. It's like there's a fundament you're standing on that you must acknowledge and celebrate and be grateful for, because without that you couldn't move forward.
Yep.
Again, like we talked about, you cannot move towards pleasure if you're not in pain. So but all of this, when people can connect these deeper truth and this the mechanics of them, then a lot of things seem to slowly make sense about whatever domain you're talking about. If it's like, again, politics, medicine, psychology, then or even theology, it just, your brain will just begin to see the pattern and then generate the ideas. And then my point is that we will all realize that these ideas that we are ending up with is pretty similar.
Yeah,
they're pretty universal. And when you stop creating a narrative around them, or let's say the greater the narrative you create around them, the more distant you become to the original truth that is not poisoned by conceptual thinking. It's like the more you are doing that, the more distant and lost you will become in your narrative, and then it will be by definition outdated at some point.
Yeah.
Because of we are expanding still as a conscious evolving mind. Then all the religions we are seeing now, that's the beautiful thing. Even like that's my conviction. You will see Christianity and Islam, Judaism, all this in some way they will, let's say the earth survive like 1,000 years more. We will be if we survive, we will be so advanced in our knowledge in, for example, physics and metaphysics, whatever, that looking at that story in the Bible or the Quran or whatever, it will just be maybe like 80% more silly in that way, that like believing in it would be then it will be just a part of it that you will understand from a mythological perspective, or
or a historical perspective, right?
Yeah, it's like it would be almost impossible to hold on to it anymore, because we're progressing so fast that narrative that worked 1,000 years ago, it had some truth in it. Again, the parts contain a part of the whole. But I think that's what's going to happen. It will dissolve by itself slowly, because it's like one grip in history. We're trying to create a narrative to grasp the world, and while we are progressing, we will just get further away from that narrative, because it cannot contain the whole truth, because that is what is evolving. That's what you need, a belief system or a spirituality that is adaptable to the evolution of that mind, that is not only fixated. And then you get into the funny, we talked about that also, like the conflict between Parmenides and Heraclit. That's the dialectic. It's like something is static, but something is also dynamic at the same time. And that's what we need. Of course, you need something to hold on to, but you need to make that thing adaptable to change. When you have that combination again, then you have a belief system that can both exist and you can utilize it, and it can evolve. But you cannot do that with a dogmatic religious belief system, because the words are finite. Like they are not able to be interpreted. That is the idea. Like you cannot progress it.
I think you're spot on. Oh, by the way, I want to say this too, that you were the first individual who's ever I've ever heard make a correlation between a fractal and yin yang, and the way that you had done it as well, and focusing in on either just the black spot within the white background or the white spot within the black background, and how you zoom in and it would presumably, at least in theory, have that fractal effect where what you're seeing is that pattern being repeated at scale as you go down, or presumably in the inverse as well.
Dude, yeah. Exactly. I have it was something I noticed, like it was like an insight I got, and then I just searched it. That I don't know if I can share it. It's like a visual. Let me see if I can share the screen. It's like I just saw this video. Let me see here. Yeah, it's this. It is this one, I think.
Let's see. Can I give you? Are you able to screen share, or is it asking for permission or anything?
Yeah, it's like let me just see if I can find it. I just didn't find the Okay, now the problem is I cannot find the.
No worries.
I have okay, I have this one here. Let me just see if I can. Is it you just push present, share screen? Da, 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 da. Is it? Can we see it now?
I believe so. Give me. Oh, yep, we can see it. Oh, that's very cool.
Is it moving in the?
It's not moving, so I'm not seeing the screen live. I'm seeing it as you're moving the cursor.
Oh, okay.
along the
But
video.
yeah, it's just it was funny. I was just watching the video and then I got the connection between
Fractal yin yang. Yeah.
yeah, exactly that the dualism contains each other in such a way that it infinitely containing both parts infinitely.
Yeah.
So it will shift constantly, containing each other, being each other as one. But again, it's so crazy. Like watching this and understanding it, it's funny how the visual input sometimes connect to like it's like a pattern visual. Like the visual input is like a pattern that then sparks some knowledge in your soul. It's like activating it.
Yeah.
It's often that with the visual input. The same with the music frequencies. You know that. Yeah, like the point is basically just that words and concepts alone are often insufficient. You have so many modalities that you can utilize to gain knowledge, and often it's not through like discourse alone. It's often from not talking and then diving into this realm that you suddenly get these insights. It's crazy.
Have you ever heard of a spiritual teacher by the name of Rupert Spira?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
He has this one quote in one of the talks that he gives. He says, "The highest, the truest thing that we could say is nothing at all." He said, "But few of us are sufficiently mature enough to intuit the nature of reality from silence. So we'll say some things." I just believe that's beautifully said.
Dude, that's spot on. I also have this one from it's an Indian philosopher called Sri Aurobindo. He says he says, "Nor must we attach ourselves even to the truth we hold most securely, for they are but forms and expressions of the ineffable, who refuses to limit itself to any form or expression." So exactly the idea is that yeah, exactly. It's funny. It's like Wittgenstein's ladder. When you use the ladder to get to the rooftop, you can kick away the ladder, but you have to use it to get up there. That's the same with language. You use it to get to. You use it so you can get up high enough in a realm of understanding that you then can leave it and throw it away.
Yep.
But you need it as a pointer, as first. So yeah, it's really
or even maybe not kicking away the ladder, but using the ladder as a way to come back and convey what you found, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, man. It's if some people choose to stay at the rooftop in that way, you have. I just read a book from it was a monk from the Advaita Vedanta school who wrote a book about the philosophy, and he ended up in his journey isolating himself completely. It was a crazy story. He's now living in a forest somewhere all alone. He doesn't want to interact with any human. He wrote the book and he just left, and he's been living there. Nobody knows what his state of being is, because he was so indulged in that realm by kicking the ladder away that he wouldn't come back. He was just gonna be there and die without any inputs. And then and most of us, we get to that realm, we get the knowledge, the wisdom, then we go back and try to get more people to join us or get up and watch this. So I think that's correct.
Yeah, I think Alan Watts has a there's a distinction in Buddhism, I believe, between a pratyeka Buddha, which is a private Buddha, and a bodhisattva, with the Buddha being a prime example of a bodhisattva. He says a pratyeka Buddha, private Buddha, will attain enlightenment and will go off into the forest and do whatever they do. He actually uses that analogy, goes off into the forest. And he says, will go off into the bliss of their enlightenment. He says, but a bodhisattva is a Buddha who attains that enlightenment and chooses to come back and walk with the world.
Exactly.
But it seems like that monk that you said where he wrote the book and then he went off seems to be a bodhisattva who decided to leave a little bit and then left, right? Leave a word for the world and then left. So
exactly. And then would try to obstruct any desire in himself by meditating all day. It's pretty remarkable. I had a point I just forgot. But yeah, it is really interesting. I was thinking about it's like the merging of the medieval times with the Renaissance that came after. Like the medieval historical period was like an aversion against the earthly world, the earthly sinful world of lust and desire, it building temples and having increasing people that were nuns and monks and all this, just a distaste for the creation itself in a way. And then with the Renaissance, it was there was like an aversion towards the medieval way of living, in the way that now you could actually turn towards the humanistic part of our humanity and actually indulge in it for the first time, but without letting go of the medieval fundament. And then again we come into the dualistic part, why we need both to experience it. So that also explains away the debate between when you are diving into a spiritual practice, what should you do? Then again, you have people who say you need to do extreme asceticism to live correctly. But what they don't get often is that by creating the idea of asceticism, you automatically create the polarity of that as an option, and you that is a necessary way of living now in that reality, without understanding that God, this mind, creates these distinctions to explore the full spectrum of experiences in it, and because they're necessary, both of them. So it's not about choosing which one. It's like a journey where when you start there's a part of your soul that wants to experience the extreme how can you say the spectrum of desire and enjoyment and lust and vices, to gain knowledge about it. That's like it's so funny, people don't get it. It's like there's a positive intention in this reality of these, what people call wicked desires people have. It's for the essentially God to experience it. Yep. Just for that and get knowledge about it, so we can evolve. When you do that, you get knowledge. The best people who help people with drug abuse, they are themselves the biggest drug abusers, or was the biggest drug abusers, because they have personal direct experience of the phenomenological experience of being in a state of drug dependency. They're the experts in a practical, pragmatic sense. So there's great utility in experiencing this, So regarding that question, like what should you do? And you see all religions trying to manage this by creating a strict moral code without really understanding this deeper picture of the full experience of the spectrum between good and evil. It's just funny. Like I really think there's a deeper truth in what we are talking about that is more progressive and elevating and give some nuances to all these ancient problems of the problem of evil and how you should live and all this. It gives really freedom to choose, knowing that whatever you choose is a part of your development. Because people would often object and say, isn't that dangerous that you can now choose whatever you want? What if a person has no morals? But that's the whole point. That's how we collectively learn. It's really horrible to say, but I believe that even the worst atrocities or tragedies in our history helped us. If you take it could even be to take the worst example just to prove the point. You take Auschwitz happening. We don't know how many Holocausts that we prevented by collectively experiencing the horror of the Auschwitz experience, because it's created such a deep trauma in us collectively of understanding of the dangers of voting in tyrants like this, that when people begin now to talk about even something like remotely close to camps, we get really worried. We get in like fight flight mode, and we become really alert. And in a way, we wouldn't get in before, because we didn't have the knowledge of what could happen. So with this knowledge, it's like you are free to choose it, because you will choose what you will choose in this realm you're in. If you're like a bad person right now, you have to go through that experience to get out of it. If you have too many vices, that was your motivation for getting out of it, because it will eject you, like, because at some point it will fall apart, and you will then move towards the good, so to say. So there's no wrong experience in that way, but we are progressing towards the good. But it's just that every human being is playing a part in that puzzle, and to say it's bad is correct on one level, and it's also wrong on another. Then it is good in at a deeper level that is happening, because it's a part of the collective development and experience.
I think you're spot on. And Nazi Germany and their ideology was perhaps the best safeguard since World War II against white supremacy ideology or white supremacist ideology than perhaps anything else. It showed the extreme, what can happen when that ideology is taken to its extreme, and to where even now, where white supremacists or far right ideologues have to at best cloak their racism if they can entertain it at all. So I think
exactly. They really did a bad branding in Nazi Germany for the future Nazis, but that's the point. It's really hard to rebrand the National Socialist movement. It's got to be a hell of a team to succeed with that.
That's exactly
making us like people. That's a hard job to do that. But
actually, I would love to get into some European politics with you, but perhaps we'll save that for the next time. I got a couple of dogs who are getting antsy and want to get.
Yeah, I was about to say also. It's probably good to move on, but I really see the potential in these conversations and dialogues. It's really interesting, and I think there's a lot of utility in this talk today.
Yes, likewise. Magnus, I appreciate you, brother. It's been a pleasure to have you on. This is our first live stream, so it's only going to get better from here on out. We're going to work on our format, and I'm excited. I'm excited for
likewise,
and what's to come, brother.
Yeah, thank you so much, brother, and to everyone listening. And love you all, and see you next time.
Thank you, guys, and don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. And we will see you guys soon. Have a great day.